Tuesday night, we answer motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions live from Valley of the Dirt People, where it's raining and so there's no dust, which is going to be awesome as soon as it stops raining and gets a little bit warmer. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in. This is our 71st show. I should probably look right here where it tells me this. Actually, Matt, I was going to... my name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm a washed-up ex-motorcycle racer, former motorcycle journalist. Now I just talk about dirt bikes for 2 hours every week on this particular channel.
The best produced podcast.
And Matt likes to claim that this is the best produced podcast
in Pahrump.
Yeah. That's on right now.
Yes.
That we talk about motorcycles at.
Correct.
Well, I actually was, doing my research for the show, and I decided, I'm going to do it different, which means I'm not going to do any research.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this thing, you're probably aware of it, Chat GDP. Is that what they call it?
I'm not aware of anything.
It's
like
artificial intelligence, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's an artificial intelligence that has scanned all of the text on the entire internet,
mm-hmm.
Any writing on the internet, things like this, and you ask it a question and it gives you an answer, a full artificial intelligence answer, and it answers just like. So I said, can you write me a script for Tech Talk Taco Tuesday? And in 3 seconds, it gave me a script for the whole show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
What was it?
Completely accurate. It says, let me read it here. Hold on. It says, Husaberg 570, dirt bikes. Yeah, that was it.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it pegged us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So if you're, you have to wait in line to use this now because people are going to make millions on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my job is done because all you have to do is say, write me a test of, and just say the name of the motorcycle,
mm-hmm.
and it'll write the test for you in your voice.
Yeah.
Or you could have it do it in someone else's voice too. You could ask it this.
Well, it can do that, but it won't necessarily be the most accurate. I mean, it can't ride the bike for you.
Neither can most of the journalists that are testing the bikes.
Oh, well, okay.
So what's the difference?
Right.
It's going to have a bigger social media following than me. So my job has been eliminated, which is the goal of artificial intelligence, is to eliminate every job. And then we just sit around in a recliner and watch artificially intelligent created content. And so if you think, well, that's good, I can just sit around and do nothing because now artificial intelligence does it all for me. Think about this, because I do listen to some podcasts about this kind of stuff. What you're watching on the screen and what you're hearing through your ears and all this stuff is just it's just digitized. Everything is now digitized, correct?
Yeah.
So since it's just digitizing and assembling, pixels and things like this,
mm-hmm.
art is it can make infinite art.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, well, artificial intelligence will never be an artist. Oh, yeah, it will.
Yeah.
It'll be an infinite artist. It'll do everything. And it can scour the internet, and it learns exponentially. So it's just getting started,
mm-hmm.
and it'll start doing this. So I'm wondering, so it can do this now. Like you say, well, what if we want to go race motorcycles? Well, it can make any motorcycle race. It could just digitize it and make all the noises for you,
mm-hmm.
and it can have any outcome that you want, or it can predict the outcome that you would like to see. How's that?
Yeah. You can do that, and you can do that. Doesn't mean it actually happened though.
There are people watching marbles race around tracks as if it's Formula One.
Yeah.
On YouTube right now, there's way more people watching marbles race around like a track than there are watching this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just.
Well, you know why, right? A lot more.
Because this sucks.
No,
Okay.
I would say more people have experience with marbles. Marbles are very easy to relate to, and there is that. And if you don't know anything about racing, you don't know anything about motorcycles, it's very simple to watch something that you've been around growing up, which is a marble, and
Right.
you just pick one. And you're like, oh, there you go. You can watch that race. Whereas like motorcycles, not a lot of people have ridden motorcycles. Not a lot of people have even touched a motorcycle. As far as like sitting on it and
Right.
twisting the throttle and everything. So I would say that's why the marbles beats us, is because we're a lot more niche than a marble.
Mm-hmm. But just think about your life that you're now just gonna you're excited by a marble rolling around, and this is the problem with what a lot of people are doing. This is why people need to get out and ride some dirt bikes, is because if I like was excited by a marble rolling around, I might have some special needs at that point. But you get out and do stuff. So anyways, this show,
You gotta be happy
Tech Talk
about the little
Taco
things.
Tuesday 171, is brought to you by Yamaha, Taco Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC, Trail Tech, Fasst Company, makers of the Flex handlebars. I love them on my mountain bike. Seat Concepts, Bulletproof Designs, and Double Take Mirrors. So if you can support any of those companies, they support us. They help us come here. And Harmick98 has a question.
2001 RM250 forks need rebuild. Do it myself or take it to a shop?
It really depends on what kind of tools you have. Forks 01, it's going to be a cartridge. It's not too complicated. I don't remember specifically which one that is. I'm pretty sure the Showa. But it depends on the tools you have or how you can kind of rig stuff. Because sometimes having an impact driver can help break the cartridge rod loose from the fork lower. You need to have some thin wrenches sometime to slide into some of the things. But it really, if it needs a rebuild, as in just fork seals, not too difficult. If you're going to go inside the cartridges and stuff like that, that's where you'd want to take it to a shop. And by shop, I'm hoping you mean suspension tuner. I wouldn't take it to like the Suzuki shop, because their mechanics there are probably as good as I am at, doing the forks. It means they can get it done. But a suspension guy works on this stuff all day long. They know where to get the right parts, sourced probably through the aftermarket, as opposed to trying to order stuff, off the parts fish, which means, time and stuff like that. And a lot of the parts are pretty standard parts that they know what wears and what doesn't wear, and they can get it done. So like I said, if it's just a fork seal, do that. If it needs something a little bit, and usually when a fork seal goes out, there's a nick or there's some dirt or something, some debris. So yeah, it just depends on how advanced you are on doing this kind of stuff. So Mark has fish. Mark Daniels is there with fish. So, Eric Featherston too. So, hey, I'm kind of curious, everybody that's in the chat and are watching this, where is everybody from? I'm always curious to see where stuff is. I see some of your stage names and I don't recognize you. So, what are we talking about? Marbles? What else would you talk about on a motorcycle podcast?
Well, maybe we lost them.
Lost our marbles?
Yeah.
It could be. It could be true. So C-March, if you have a real question and you have some curiosities about motorcycles and motorcycle related products, we can answer all of those. And Speed Toad is impatiently waiting for the Seat Concepts hotline. Oh,
well, he's not.
Yeah, we got it for you. 775-318-5515 is the number. It's the same number all the time. And if you call this when you're not listening live,
leave a voicemail.
Yeah, just leave a voicemail and we'll get back to it and try to answer that. So, wow.
That's so
Indio,
cool.
Salt Lake City, Pasadena.
Ohio. Yeah, we got some Savannah's
different
dad.
place.
Oh, Speed Toad's Savannah's dad
Oh.
with the lightly broken in YZ250 frame.
That's true, and he's still watching after I made fun of his body position over the jump. Hey, so Speed Toad, what I want to know is in that picture, was that the seat bounce? Was that what was happening there? I'm just kind of curious because I take pride in being able to pick that stuff apart. Okay, what was that question? We just lost.
So Roger Eddington, do you or anyone you know have experience with Mr. Wolf's tire balls? What I like about them is they're not specific to any tire size, and he's from Southwest Utah.
I don't have any experience with those. I did have some experience with the tire balls that Scott Summers' dad used to seem like he sold them somehow. And they never really took off on the motorcycle side of things, I think because they were a little inconsistent. I mean, if you knew how to set them up, you could figure out how to set them up. Installing them was another thing. But they definitely didn't do good at high speed. And then when one started, when you had a problem with one of them, it started getting catastrophic. Like they really started falling apart. I know that a lot of quad guys run those things. They run. I think that most of the quad guys, at least I know the desert guys, have switched over to these things called wedges, which are essentially like foam pieces and moose things. But no, I don't have a whole lot of experience with those, so can't help you. 775-318-5515 is our Seat Concepts Hot Seat Hotline. Colin, thanks to Seat Concepts for sponsoring that. If you are looking for a really comfortable seat for your motorcycle or a really good-looking race seat, a great seat for adventure bike, lower seats, not Jimmy Lewis approved, by the way, the lower seat.
Oh, it isn't?
No, never. No, not really. If you need it, you need it. But I've found that I don't really like riding with my feet on the ground, so that's not a priority.
Yeah. You like the taller seats, right?
I have short legs. I have a 29-inch, maybe a 30-inch inseam, and I run tall seats on certain bikes. If I'm riding extreme enduro, I run a standard seat, and I've tried a lower seat before. It doesn't help. I've run a dish seat or a cut seat on motocross bikes to get me farther forward and to teach me to sit in the front of the seat. But I've never run a low seat for any. I've run a seat that was cut in the back, but that was on a bike that kind of had a thicker seat back in the day. So yeah, got a lot of people out there. Seems like mostly the western side. Glenn Williams, good to see you. He'll probably be out at the King of the Hammers doing King of the Moto stuff. So
let's bring in our caller here. All right, you're live on air.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
This is Todd from Minnesota.
Hey, Todd, how's it going?
Last week's winner of Roost or Endo.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, with an awesome bike.
Thank you. I'm also Savannah's dad.
Right.
I'm also Theodore's dad. And thanks, Jimmy, for voting for his TTR 125 to win Roost or Endo. And too bad that Matt voted against it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys were going for a trifecta. You wanted the whole family to have Rooster Endo awards. Did we lose him?
Oh, I can't hear you, Jimmy.
Oh.
I can hear Matt, but Jimmy sounds like he's in the other room.
I do. Well, my microphone seems to be working here. Oh, Matt
That should not be working.
So remember how Matt was just bragging about how he's the best producer and he's all the technical? Is that not working? Good, I'll get a microphone. Can you hear me now?
I can hear Matt. Yeah.
Oh, maybe we're. You know what? He's probably hearing us through the phone. No, that's not what's happening.
Yeah. I can hear you now. I can hear you better now, Jimmy.
Oh, you can now. Because I stole a different microphone. This is how this show works. Now we've got echoing. How's that?
It's Matt, the greatest producer.
Right. So I was curious. So you're going for the family trifecta, winning all three different Taco Moto Rooster Endo awards, correct? And then Matt sabotaged it.
Yeah. But Mike at Taco Moto, what is it?
Taco Moto.
Taco Moto, he was generous. Yep.
Yeah.
So we were happy.
So do you pick on your son since he's the only loser in the house?
No. We told him that Jimmy's opinion was the only one that matters.
Oh,
and
good.
he doesn't care because, motorcycle parts. That's like a free thing that he gets. Like Dad just lavishes that when he needs them. So it doesn't matter where it comes from, right? It just magically appear.
Yeah, his bike magically always works, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
well, it's a TTR, so of course it does.
Well, yeah, they'll rarely ever break. So my other question is, so when we saw your photo, we were talking about like whether it was a seat bounce or a hard you're having a hard time standing up. Were we right on that?
That was not. That is me. I think coming up short, and then when you're jumping through the air and you're not going far enough, if you rev the throttle.
Right.
You're just kind of praying that you'll go farther and that it doesn't work.
No.
Also,
no traction.
Yeah, no traction. That janky indoor arena that we're at, you come around the corner and right away there's a jump. So you're always but I got to work on that regrip. I know that, but
regrip with because your elbows were your wrists were kind of down and everything. Oh, that's all the kind of stuff we teach in our off-road riding school, by the way. So I just announced some new dates in a newsletter. So if you're looking to get into the class, I think. Well, no, you'd have to email me. Maybe I could send you a newsletter, but we're going to start filming our regular class, not our beginner class, here in the very near future. So. Yeah, it'll be so you people in Minnesota, where it's cold and you have lots of lakes and they're frozen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're
3 feet of snow.
Yeah, we're complaining because it's a little bit cold out here today. So I couldn't imagine. Hey, and if you're stuck someplace in the weather and tough it out. Be careful. Don't do anything crazy. So
we put metal studs in our tires.
Yes, I think someone sent a picture for Roost or Endo with some gnarly studs. Yeah.
Oh, that gets a vote.
That gets expensive.
That gets my vote.
The studs are expensive. So.
Hey, so I got a thing for you. So I have a little bit of I bought some flex bars for my DRZ that you don't like from Taco Mike at Taco Moto. So I love those things, though. I have bad elbows. Those flex bars, I can ride 3-4 days in a row with those flex bars. If I don't have them, I'm done after a few hours.
I'm exactly the same way. I can if we were out testing some Hondas a couple weeks ago, and we kind of had to ride 2 days in a row, and on the second day I was in pain, and I just kind of forget about it. Because all my bikes have the flex bars on, but every once in a while I'll ride something that doesn't, and then I really notice it. So yeah, thanks for the shout out. I know Cole, those guys, man, when they first started, you wouldn't believe the resistance there was in especially the motocross side of things, because the bars are a little bit heavier, and everybody's like, yeah, right. And I kind of was, in all honesty, in my head, I was sort of the same way, but I really did give them a try and rode with them, and I was probably one of the first, early adapters to those bars. And I don't even know if at that time my wrists were really that bad. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to ask him when they introduced those things, but it's been a long time ago. So, well, awesome. Well, thanks for calling in, and
yeah.
Good luck.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Do you have any?
Listen to you.
Do you have any other children?
I have an older daughter that is 2018 enduro champion, but now she says the dirt biking is too hard and too much work. So
okay. I was saying
17 now.
I was saying, when are we gonna expect the next submission? So, well, right on. Tell her to toughen up, and we'll see her back out in the trail, right?
All right, I'm gonna finish the show tomorrow at work. So
awesome. Don't get in trouble.
Thanks. I just
Okay.
wanted to call in. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay, get my mic back there, Matt.
Yep.
So did you figure out what the problem was?
No.
No. Okay.
I got lost in the sauce that is the wires underneath this table.
Okay. Well,
So we're going to add that to the list of things that need to get checked because
what about
yeah.
lowered foot pegs versus a tall seat? So who asked that question? I can't see on the thing.
I think that was actually
Seamarsh.
Was that Todd?
No. Well, Speed Toad, I think is
Speed Toad is
yeah. So Seamarsh, these weird names. So when you lower the foot pegs, which I actually do on some of my adventure bikes, I'll lower them or move them back a little bit. It really, if you want to talk about changing the handling of the motorcycle, that is pretty dramatic. And so when there's the foot pegs are pretty critical in that, and because I do a lot of the steering and controlling the motorcycle with the foot pegs, I really notice it. And when they start getting down a little bit low, not only do they connect with more stuff on the ground a little bit easier, do they dig in if you're leaning it over, they also can make the bike kind of feel sluggish in the handling. Like the higher up the foot pegs are, the more twitchy the bike can get, and when they kind of start coming down or back, it actually kind of slows, or it can stabilize the bike a little bit. But that's the thing. So the tall seat versus a tall seat. Yeah, I would rather kind of raise myself, and then it really depends on the bike. Like on my standard dirt bikes, I don't really run tall seats unless they're sort of like dual sport ish, and I'm trying to get a little more comfort in the seat, rally type of a bike. And then so yeah, it's a I'd rather just go to the seat, raise the seat up and stuff. So so Dave is gonna hit some dunes on Matt's old bike. So does it work still?
I haven't heard any complaints from Dave.
Right.
Hey, that bike's fun, and those dunes too.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of fun anywhere.
Yeah. Is it supposed to be sunny tomorrow?
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't
I'm
really
be in Vegas in my upstairs office with 2 big windows.
Oh, good.
It's also called my bedroom.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not an office.
No.
Yeah. So Jason Abbott is out there. What is Jason? Jason, what are you doing? I know I thought you were doing a new job. Interested. Dilly 826 says
2001 KX500 build keeps stock forks, or do you think it's worth the money to upgrade the front end to modern forks?
Remember when you were listening to the rough edit of the KLR 650 video?
Yeah.
And I kind of said, look, this bike is what it is,
mm-hmm.
and don't try to make it into something it's not.
Yeah.
So there are a couple people I've seen that have done, like, they've taken the KX500 with this, it's in the stock frame, and then thrown really good suspension on it. And the ones that are on the internet that like to show you the pictures of it talk about how bitchin' it is. Oh, it's awesome. Look, I got A-kit this and that and all the other stuff. And the guys that I know that really know a lot about bikes that did something like that said, man, it just shows you how crappy that chassis really is and how flexy and wallowy it really is. So it's up to you. I would honestly, the stock forks are really not that bad. They can be brought up to a pretty decent standard. Just they aren't. There was pretty big evolution, like from the 2000 to about 2005. Mm-hmm. There were some big changes. They just learned some things, and so there's some good components that you could get and put inside that thing. But I wouldn't actually go to modern forks, because the modern forks are kind of designed around the modern chassis, and they're two kind of different things. So, and I would be wrong if I told you I remembered exactly whether that fork would be stiffer or more flexy than a modern one. I kind of think it's actually different, just the way that they've got them set up. But I would just try to have them set up. I mean, there's, I rode some pretty good working KX 500s as a whole, back then. And I'm trying to think if I've ridden a KX 500 that had good stuff on it. And I don't think I have. I've done it with like XR 650s and XR 600s and some Hondas that, from that era that had some good stuff put on them. And it was like, it just shows the weakness in the chassis and stuff. Next question.
Okay.
This is question roulette. I like this.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Glad you guys are asking all these questions.
We want this engagement. So Adam Decaria, please correct me if I got that wrong.
Decaria.
EXE/FEs versus an XCFW/FE with a street legal kit. Best option for longer rides, BDR to complement my TX 300.
So EXC versus XCF. And then so in the Husky version. So the Husky, the big thing about the KTM EXC is it has PDS, linkageless rear suspension. All the other bikes that in this group that you're talking about have a shock linkage. And so in my world, that's the biggest thing in the design of the bikes. When you go from like the street legal or the emissions compliant bike to the full on race bike, if you're really looking all about motor, you just have to take the EXC and push it aside because you're not going to get PDS unless you want to spend a lot of money on the motor. Go with the competition bikes because then you're starting with a bike it's essentially a race bike, and you don't have to worry about anything the bike. It's got a good strong motor. It makes all the horsepower. It revs like it's supposed to. So it's kind of like what you want. I prefer the power that the corked up bike has for doing longer rides, BDR rides. They're quieter, they're smoother, they go plenty fast. I mean, I still have the reeds in the 500s I've been riding around. So you already have a TX 300, which is basically a race bike, and it's kind of like if you're going between KTM and Husky on the other two, I would always go with the street legal-ish one, and I would go with personally, I would go with the KTM with the PDS. So that's the question there. When you start, and the thing is, in the XCF, your gearbox ratio is also, the more competition when the gearbox ratio is a little bit tighter as well. So, yes.
Okay. So, C-Marsh was curious if you think that moto tires could take some cues from mountain bike world. I've wondered why dirt bikes, especially front tires, don't resemble mountain bike tires with directional knobs, etc.
Oh, not to pump one of our school's personal sponsors, but have you seen the Kenda Parker DT? The tire that I've run all the time on all my bikes? And the more I run that thing, even in soft conditions, the more I like it. People think I'm crazy, but then again, I'm picky, and I always run it in the hard direction. So the number one is the reason I don't resemble the mountain bike tires is I honestly, this is what I honestly think, is that motorcycle people in general are super reluctant to change or to try anything different. So if it doesn't look like that Dunlop tire or that Bridgestone tire or that Michelin tire that everybody is super familiar with, the bigger brands, and it just nobody will even try it unless it costs like $10. And notice mountain bike tires don't cost like $10. Mountain bike tires cost much more than motorcycle tires in my experience. So I don't, and they seem like the mountain bike tires, they can do like a small batch run, or they can try it for a little while. If it doesn't work, they can change it, and everybody's happy. And they don't complain. Like when Dunlop discontinued like a 739, people were just up in arms, and they couldn't.
I've met people who still talk about that tire.
Yeah. I was pulling some tires off the rack the other day. I have a 739 EN, which I think is a Works Endurocross tire. it's a super gummy one because they have a AT81 EX, I think, and it was kind of like something that was we were comparing or somebody wanted me to compare. I just never did it. But yeah, so I think that the mountain bike industry is kind of a little more accepting of kind of different or unique or change. You know, they'll allow change, and they're actually not. They'll try. It seems like people must try it, or they're willing to let the kind of customers see if something kind of comes out and works. And we're on the motorcycle side. I don't really see that. I'm surprised by the. I'm surprised that people kind of get stuck in a rut with the tires that they constantly use, and they don't try different things, you know, over a period of time to find out what they really like. Because every once in a while, you know, I'll have somebody hop on one of my bikes and ride it, and they'll go, "Wow," you know, they'll notice something about it, and whether it's the tires or it's the suspension or the bars, and they'll say, "I really like that," or I absolutely didn't like that.
Yeah.
So it's testing.
Well, I mean, if people in the industry seem to be resistant to change, I think that's why they don't try different tires.
Yeah,
it's just that resistance. They don't want to go away from what they don't know. I think I remember somewhere I heard something about Jimmy McGrath would always run like the same, like a really similar setup. Like if he didn't like what the bike was doing, they go back to that setup, like in tires and stuff like that. Just so that if it wasn't best, they knew what it was going to do. So I think that's why people like sticking with that one tire, is they know what it's going to do.
That's the right thing to do. That's the way. That's the way of even when you're just testing stuff. You're not racing.
Yeah.
You're just testing stuff. You always go back to kind of a known or a standard, and then because sometimes you get off in the weeds. You know, you keep changing stuff, and then it's like, where am I? And the best way to test is with have like a baseline, a stock bike. Like I always try to keep two bikes that are kind of basically really similar in stock, and then I can kind of throw something on one. And try do as much back to back with that, you know, to testing. But it's, you know, that's give it a, you know, the tire. I always say tires are cheap, and if you put it on and you don't like it, take it right back off. If you know I don't like this, take it right back off and sell it to your buddy for cheap, and get another one. You don't really lose out. You don't have to wear that sucker all the way out.
Right.
I take tires off all the time. So I always want to take them off of test bikes and put what I'm used to on there, you know, because I know the tires for me is it's the initial part of the suspension. That's the biggest thing that I feel right away. I mean, before it even comes to traction, I'm kind of feeling the suspension aspect of it. And then it's like, okay, I want to adjust the pressure. Let's take that as much out of the equation so I can do everything else. So
not to beat a dead horse here, but actually that point brings me up to another question: is if a bike's like sliding all over the place, or it's doing something that you don't want it to do in a corner, or just general handling stuff, how do you differentiate between, okay, this is the tires, or okay, this is just the chassis and the suspension setup?
That's a really good question. A lot of it comes down to just experience, just knowing, you know, what is causing it. So number one, it's when something doesn't feel right, traction wise or handling wise or something, the first thing I always go to is check the tire pressure, make sure the tire pressure is right, or at least in the range. Yeah. And especially when we're trying new bikes and stuff like that at introductions with lots of bikes and stuff, it's always the tire pressure, you know, because sometimes they'll set it first thing in the morning, it'll heat up, or, you know, or they'll have it a little bit high because they don't want anybody to get flat tires, and you know, you feel this. But you know, you at some point, you know, make sure the pressure, it's 80% of the time is the pressure. It's not really a tire. And you just start riding it, and then you start feeling, okay, if you're familiar with, you know, the location and just something's completely off, maybe that is the tire. And then you do something where you're not pushing the traction of the tire. You're doing something where you're actually feeling just the suspension action. So instead of really, you know, like loading the tire in a turn and complaining, okay, it's the tire. But usually with the tire, it's more like a wallow kind of feel, as opposed to the way that the suspension is moving. I mean, because sometimes if it's like the suspension or the geometry of the bike, well, suspension, you can push the the suspension into the turn, settle it into the turn more, or, kind of lighten up on it, or, load the front of the bike, load the rear end of the bike, make a sag adjustment or something.
Yeah.
To change the attitude of the bike. And then by kind of trying one thing or another thing, you'll sort of de facto, work your way into it, kind of, you'll eliminate things.
Okay. What like a gross oversimplification of what you just said is, like, if it's the tire, you can get some of that more of that side to side, like say you're in a turn and the rear end's kind of getting some of that side to side, like trying to slide out from underneath you. That could be the tire. But if you're getting more up and down response, like vertical,
no, it wouldn't have to do with like the axis that the tire or whatever is working on. It's just more of, you could, like I said, if it felt like the tire's a little wallowy, you could just add some air to it, and and if it goes away when you do that, it's like, okay, but now it's harsh. Okay, now can we tune the suspension to get that feeling back or forth? So it's kind of give or take. Like a lot of times, just when we're just talking straight suspension, people go, yeah, my suspension feels too harsh, and it's like, well, stiffen it up, because it's harsh because it's riding down in the stroke. This is generally when I'm talking to someone that's a bigger person, that's riding stock springs. And it's like, well, stiffen it up a little bit. It'll get plusher. I'm like, oh, I don't want to stiffen it up. Like, no, what you're really trying to do is hold it up, not really stiffen it up. And it holds it up. They go, wow, that really worked. And which is counterintuitive, stiffen it up to soften it. But sometimes you got to play with these kind of things.
Right.
So
we missed a few questions. So Jason Abbott.
Oh, he's over at BRP Can-Am. Three-wheeled vehicles and new electric motorcycles.
Oh, speaking.
Hey, you know what? I've seen pictures of Starks in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So all that shit that I gave him last week for the bikes, I said they will show up. They'll come, and evidently there's pictures of people with them. I haven't seen any posts of anybody riding them, or I don't know, but it looked like they were in some United States dealerships. I saw 2 different pictures of people sitting on or standing next to or whatever. So, yeah, hopefully like I said, I'm not a poo-pooer. There was a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Your whole gripe was never with that. It was electric bike. Your gripe
it has nothing to do with electric bike.
How they're handling the press releases, how they're trying to launch it and everything.
Yeah, it's the
way over promising.
Promising
too much.
They promised a lot. I don't want to call it over promising until they deliver. First, they have to deliver a bike, and then when they deliver a bike, and it makes quote 80 horsepower, and it charges up in 1 hour, and it runs for 1 hour.
Well, didn't they already promise something in the end of 22?
I'm going to back off. It was supposed to be here at the end of 21 in October, so they're like a year and a few months late technically, but so.
See, we had some people talking about mountain bike tires.
Mountain bike tires with the low rolling resistance. Yeah, that's definitely something they do, the way that they cut the knobs and stuff like that. So what on the motorcycle with the different shapes and stuff, it doesn't, it's funny, it doesn't make as big a difference as some people would like to believe. I mean, I've ridden some pretty weird designs, and you'd be surprised that it didn't make a big difference, because there was the same kind of carcass and same rubber and 2 completely different tread patterns, and the tires were amazingly similar. And then it was just an early prototype test on something. It's like, hey, how is this going to work? And it's like, it was surprising how much the carcass and then the compound over the actual shape of the knobs. And I find that the shape of the knobs really, it's, for me, the biggest thing is like stability under braking is what the knobs tend to do. So, and then like the way that they're like C-Marsh is saying, the shouldered side knobs and the on the front, actually on both the front and rear, make a big difference in how they, how the bike performs in corners and different kind, whether you're sliding it or if there's bumps in the corner, it makes a big difference. There's a lot of, all that stuff that when you go to a tire introduction and they talk about all these different things, how they, the different structures that they use, for the side knobs and things, it does make a difference. And it's having tried this stuff, it's pretty cool. I mean, you can do a lot with it, but we've seen the standard. I mean, all the tires out there now are kind of they've all kind of gravitated in one direction, and they're a good thing. And I don't know if there's anything radical that's out there that's they can do. I mean, some of the mountain bike stuff was crazy. You know, the centers were like they made the knobs really small in the centers, and so there was just rolling resistance. So yeah,
that's
cool. How it goes. Chris Reel says getting back to basics is a great baseline method in determining of progress. This is true.
Yeah, very true. With anything.
And our hybrid gummies like trials tires a fad. This is the one thing I was going to say about tires. I'm surprised at how many people adopted or went to the softer gummy tires. Because they do wear pretty quick, and I would always think that people wouldn't, but they work, and they work good for sticking on stuff and getting traction where ordinarily you wouldn't. But they wear quickly, and the other thing that's is a lot of them tend to make the bike handle horrible. So I'm seeing this thing like, okay, people don't care about the handling, they care about the traction, because it lets them get away with stuff. I watch it. Well, actually, no, I ride on some stuff that used to be difficult, and on a gummy tire, it becomes easy. So, just like especially rocks.
Yeah, yeah.
So and then the really good ones that are made with the really good rubber compounds and stuff stick on wet things quite well, which is amazing. Trials technology.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Jake May, would all those fine cuts on much taller knobs wear off pretty quick and be really loose feeling if they were full depth?
So he's basically talking about kind of like siping, I think. And so the one tire I run quite a bit is the Kenda Equilibrium, which is a kind of we'll call it a hybrid trials tire. It's a trials tire with slightly wider spacing. Mm-hmm. On a kind of a softer carcass, but the knobs won't fly off. They're really good at doing like durability, and those last a long time. I'm really surprised at how, for a soft tire, how long the siping and stuff stays on there. But if you cut the siping much deeper, it goes from adding traction to adding wallow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that it even adds extra traction, because it feels like the knobs kind of like instead of biting, they tend to lay down or roll over or something. So I don't. I know some of the guys in the enduro crosses and stuff were slicing the knobs, kind of filleting them down like that. But I don't know how that worked. I haven't been to an enduro cross for a while to see what the latest tricks are. Mm-hmm. I probably should go to one of those one of these days. And what does Seymour say?
You can buy the same tire in multiple compounds and carcass stiffness as well is a big difference is you can tune the tire how you ride, but with the same tread.
Is that a mountain bike thing, or is this I don't know of too many.
I'm assuming a mountain bike thing.
Motocross tires, yeah. That you can buy with different compounds. I know, factory teams.
Yeah.
have different compounds. That's what when you hear about these works tires and stuff, they're different. A lot of stuff. They're mostly for lightweight. They do a lot of stuff to make them lighter, but they're also kind of tuned for different riders. Have different preferences on compounds. But I think works tires are getting harder and harder to come by because they are really, really expensive to manufacture. So I'd like to take a second to thank TrailTech for being a sponsor of this show. TrailTech makes the Voyager Pro GPS, as well as a lot of neat little digital gauges and kickstands and fan kits. A lot of their stuff is plug and play, which is really nice, especially if your bike doesn't have a fan and you're getting it hot because you're using the clutch too much. That's why your bike gets hot. Check out TrailTech for those items. It's trailtech.net if you're wondering. So, okay. Yeah, mountain bike tires he was talking about. So that's all good. Let's head to our questions on the sheets here.
So we'll go with Ruben, and this one might take a while. This might take us to commercial break. So Ruben Brower, who also has submitted a bike for Roost or Endo. So he gave us some extra context for his questions. I'm a 42-year-old carpenter, 6'4", 215 pounds. I'd say I'm an average rider at best. I will be mostly dual sporting the bike my bike with some camping trips, single track mixed in. I'm also excited because I signed up for my first rally this spring on Vancouver Island, and this leads to his questions. And then his bike was a 2016 KTM 500 EXC. So his first question: I'm using the winter to scour the internets for tower/light options. What's the thoughts on frame versus fork mounted units? I realized adding weight to the forks isn't ideal, but is it overly detrimental? Detrimental.
So he's talking about like a rally tower type of thing. Mm-hmm. And when he talks about adding to the forks, it's putting it on the steering, so it moves with the handlebars. So it's not really adding it to the forks, it's adding it to the steering. I mean, no matter where you put that weight up there, it's adding it to the forks. Mm-hmm. But when you mount it to the bars, then that weight is also turning with the handlebars. So it kind of depends on what you're going for, how, if you're going to leave it on full time, take it off. All of my bikes that I use for doing rally training, that I loan to guys that are doing stuff when they're out here, we are just bolting on a tower type thing onto the handlebars. So it's not even a tower. It's essentially a ram ball mount and an iPad is all that's going on there. So we're still running the stock headlight. The only real difficulty, and I'm kind of just careful about how I route it, is making sure that the front brake line under full compression doesn't come up over top and grab the iPad thing and pull it down. But generally, you can kind of set it up so that the brake line comes up and just deflects forward and it can't get over the top. So I just go for simplicity there. When you start adding the frame-mounted stuff, it's funny because the bike takes on a little bit of a different characteristic, because now all of a sudden you have, when the back end of the bike goes one direction, the tower moves in front of you. And so it's an awkward sensation for some people. Most people that have ridden a dirt bike for a long time, it freaks them out the first time they're riding kind of a frame-mounted thing. We used to have, our Baja race bikes had frame-mounted headlights, double headlights that were frame-mounted, not steering-mounted. And that was mostly because the way you're going around a lot of the turns there is you're actually sliding and counter-steering.
Oh, really?
So at night, you'd be turning your headlights, when you're kind of flat tracking around some of these turns, you'd be turning your headlights away from where you wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So there was a little bit of that, a little bit of just taking the weight out of the steering and those things. So I don't think that, it depends on how much stuff you're adding up there. But for simplicity, I would just run, a good thing. But Moto Minded makes a really nice bolt-on thing. Also remember, when you crash with that frame-mounted stuff, a lot of stuff starts breaking off, where it seems like the handlebar stuff gets away with a little bit more less cost per crash, just in my experience from what I've seen. Yeah. But then again, I can see where somehow, with some of those shrouding and stuff, it would protect it. But it just seems like that it's overkill for most people.
Okay. So his second question is, what's the thoughts on aftermarket ECU/piggyback tuners? The bike seems to run fairly hot with his limited time on it, and it has lots of decel popping/farting. I'm not looking for more power. I'm after longevity/reliability for when I'm way out there in places.
So the heat, it depends. So if you have a stock KTM and it has that stock little perforated thing at the very tail end of the exhaust, it looks like a bunch of little holes, in the muffler end cap instead of one big hole. That thing there will trap a ton of heat inside of that. And that can make it hot. Mostly just the muffler. It doesn't, for the most part, unless you're really kind of ringing it down the road, it really doesn't heat up the motor as much as it does. It gets hotter, but it's not going to cause a lot of heat. most of the heat for, when guys have bikes that are, quote, running hot or overheating, it tends to be from using the clutch too much, just slipping the clutch. So that's the first thing. And then so if you're going with a piggyback tuner, I don't think they work that well on the newer bikes because it's always it's a closed loop system, and it's always trying to adjust the fuel. So if you add fuel, it's going to take fuel away, and it gets in a fight. So I think you almost have to go to a complete ECU change, and then most of those are kind of designed to be run like with an open exhaust. And I still have not ridden an ECU on a modern emissions compliant bike that was as smooth and tractable and rideable in the rev ranges that I ride the bike in as stock. So they always are a little hiccupy, and they have drivability issues, and everybody tells you how awesome they are because they do make more power, but the rideability has kind of gone away. And I one of these days I'll get my hands on one and take the time to tune it, and because there's tuning apps that you can use. But 95% of this stuff is all done on a dyno, and I don't think that the guys that are doing the tuning take the time to actually go out and ride them around
and try their butt dynos.
Yeah, well, yeah. And if they do, they go out and they go right down the parking lot. They're not trying to, do a pick turn on a single track trail and then get some traction across wet rocks. They're not doing this. Stock bikes actually do really good at this, believe it or not. So, yeah, for longevity and stuff like that, I think you're fine as long as it's not unless you don't want an open exhaust. You just don't want one that's super plugged up. So take that for what it's worth. I'm the only guy saying that on the whole internets. The only guy. I don't have anything to sell either, unfortunately.
Right.
I should just sell common sense. It's not.
Well, that's why we have the riding school.
Right. Yeah. I can teach you how to get off that clutch. That'll help the heat too.
Yeah. All right, so moving down the list, Bobby Coleman. Jimmy, could you spend a couple of minutes discussing any different benefit from using either a foam or paper air filter? Obviously, a clean filter is the best filter, but what about performance between the two?
So paper filters generally are dry, and so I think he's talking about more about adventure bikes and stuff. Paper filters generally tend to be dry, so that a lot of times the dirt and stuff doesn't, quote, stick to them. I mean, it's still the fine particles still get in there and sort of get stuck, but the bigger pieces don't get kind of trapped in the foam like an oiled foam filter. Paper filters are cheap. Actually, I think they're both pretty cheap to produce, but the paper filters are probably cheaper.
Like a nickel versus a dime, or like a nickel versus a dollar?
Probably a nickel versus a dime on the grand scheme of things. But I think if you're never going to maintain it, paper might be better than foam. And I think maybe that's some of the reason that some of the stock bikes will come with a, quote, paper type filter, just like your car does, the throwaway filter that comes in your car. But we run foam filters on the dirt bikes just because I think that when it's just a lot of dirt, I'm starting to think, I'm sitting there just in my head trying to think, like, why would we use an oiled foam versus a
paper? Yeah. Would it be because you could wash the foam and then reuse it, so the manufacturers wouldn't have to make as many paper filters?
I'm thinking, so there's the reusability of the foam would be probably the main reason, because as a dirt bike's going to get dirty, you can reuse it. So never really thought about that, but that's probably the reason that and then like an adventure bike, they just don't expect it. It's not like it's in the dirt all the time, so the filter really shouldn't get that, quote, that dirty. And maybe that's how they do that. But I think the foam, I think they're probably as far as, I've never really seen. If a company makes a certain type of, like a K&N filter, which is a fabric filter, but it's like a pleated fabric, and they show how theirs flows more air, and then you have the ones that, the foam ones, they show how theirs flow more air. So, and I don't really know of a aftermarket paper manufacturer, so maybe that answers that it's not as good. So maybe the foam does flow better.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of foam filters that flow really good, and they also don't take the dirt out as well. so remember that. But yeah, just a good. I would say just go with a good quality foam filter, and you're going to be, that would be the best thing.
All right. So in the chat, Jay Mro, Jimmy, do you have any testing on MX Tech Lucky upgrade for the late model KTM Husqvarna 500/501?
I don't. But I did ride someone's bike that had the whole Lucky setup and stuff, and I can't tell you how it worked because it wasn't set up for me. Oh. He was really happy with it, and it was like I said, they put a lot of parts in there and some different things, but he liked the way it worked, and it felt to me like it's the setting that a lot of tuners seem to go for with the especially the KTM 500s kind of stuff, the EXC and the Huskies. They make them blow through the stroke, and I already thought that the bike kind of moves in the stroke quite a bit. I want it to start slowing down. I want it to. And my suspension guy, George, always says, you like it stiff. And I'm like, no, I don't like it stiff. I like it really compliant. and I want it to ramp up progressively, probably more progressively than most, especially at the end of the stroke. So it seems like those they seems like the tuners can get away with putting bigger springs and then still keeping the suppleness, and then allow it to blow into the stroke with those types of devices. So don't really know. And good, we have a expert
very good
answer on this. Paper filters filter finer, but when the paper filter gets wet, it turns to mush and does not flow air. So there we go. I forgot
excellent.
I forgot about the wet the wet factor on the paper too.
Dave Black commented, the Fastway Pro Moto billet end cap is the quickest and easiest way to open up the stock pipe and eliminate the sound baffle.
The easiest way to get that little thing out the end is just to hit it with a punch and just pop it, just break it off, and then when it gets really loose, grab it and wiggle it and pull it out. Don't punch it in there because it'll go inside there, and then you'll have to take the end cap off. Then you'll wish you just got the Pro Moto billet piece.
Got it. Very few problems Hammer can solve a lot of problems.
What is Rich looking for?
2015 EXE 500 stock motor, open chamber forks, Kickstarter. No need to buy an ECU. Best year.
He's saying I was.
Oh, it has the Kickstarter.
It has the Kickstarter. You know what? Rich, I will agree with you on some things. I have a few of those. I have 2012, 13 and 14s. And there's more motorcycle there. there's the stuff is a little bit heavier, it's a little bit more motorcycle. I think, they didn't have a lot of the ECU is still locked up, and it's pretty limited in all honesty as far as a competition setting, but yeah, good bike.
Dave Black, I've got the MX Tech Ravens on my 501 rally bike. Absolutely amazing. And then
most people that buy that stuff tend to like that. Like all that stuff. After you spend all that money, I think you're sold before you bought it. And
right.
Hopefully it turns out.
It could be confirmation bias.
Yeah, and like I said, I've had some really expensive stuff done to my suspension. I had to send it back. I just sent in some suspension, and some guy spent a lot. I was on a used bike, spent a lot of money having it done, and I had it all undone. I was actually looking for stock component. I was hoping somebody wanted all this stuff, and I would trade out just to get the stock stuff back into it.
Yeah,
because I didn't like where it was, and we couldn't come across that thing. So my suspension guy just said, "I'm going to take a shot at it." Man, he did a good job.
Nice
to get it work.
All right, so Dave was wondering, when is a moose better than a tube? I'm running 12 PSI on a Kenda Parker DT with a tube. What are you all running?
12 PSI.
Yeah, 12 is good.
Most of the time I'm running 12, maybe 13 if I'm a little bit worried about getting flats. If you want flat protection and you start going up above, like, I don't know, I used to desert race with like 18 and I still got flats. So I think like it kind of at 15 is where you start really having a big trade-off in performance. And I don't think if you're going to smack something hard enough to get it at 15, you're probably going to get it at, 18 or whatever you put it at. And most of the time, the reason that you're running 18 PSI and you're getting flats is because your bike deflects off of something into something else.
Yeah, yeah.
But our moose is better than a tube. If you like low pressure, they absolutely 100% are. And the fact that you just will not get a flat is the way to go. Is Dave the guy that bought your bike?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So it looks like he replaced those worn out AT81s with some
Some
superior
good Parkers. Yeah.
superior tires. Okay.
Okay. Thinks
Well,
it's time to take a little
We'll
break
go for an
here.
ad break, and we'll be right back with more questions.
And Roost or Endo.
Yeah. We'll see you in a little bit.
Favorite segment.
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or text, and it's like having a dirt bike doctor on call every day of the year, helping you fix your bike or recommend parts or setups for you. If you've ever received an order from us, you'll know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come with the coolest stickers that you've ever had, buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies. All of our Taco Moto Co. branded components come with a no questions asked lifetime warranty, and we'll even extend out the warranty of other manufacturers, OEM, and aftermarket parts where we can, sometimes for life. We test and tune endlessly and exhaustively and obsessively. We're trying to destroy everything that we can before you get your hands on it to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer. And if it's something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we carry is something that we have personally used, tested, and ridden. and raced and knows meets the high taco touch demanding standard. Go out and get some adventure.
And we're back.
Live from Pahrump, we are back. So Jimmy Lewis here, Matt Mattoon, who is trying to keep the lights on in this place. And luckily we're not relying on him to actually do the lights because they probably wouldn't work. But at least the speakers are working now.
I think I'm, an intelligent person until you put like a wrench or sockets in my hands, and then it all goes out the window.
Janie needs to have her carb rebuilt on a bike, and I said, "You're the man."
Yeah. I am the greatest. I'm the greatest mechanic for finding on how not to do things.
It's amazing how rebuilding carburetors can be so hard on your back.
Very hard on my back.
Yeah, a whole week off. Yeah.
Oh, it was more than a week.
At least a week.
Oh.
Hey, we're gonna get back into our product of the week.
Yeah.
I assigned this segment to. I said it's sponsored by Bulletproof Designs, because Bulletproof Designs has all the stuff you need to protect your 2023 bike. They have it in stock. So if you're looking for foot pegs or radiator guards or that cool little thing that protects your chain guard from getting lapped off your swing arm, maybe you're looking for a front disc rotor protector. I'm not, but maybe you're looking for one of those.
Yeah.
You're going to bash it in the rocks. Rear disc rotor protector, okay. They make it all. Check out Bulletproof Designs for all of your protection needs. So on the product of the week, this is something I've been using for a long time. And what I'm holding up here is a double take mirror. And it's a really simple design. Ned Duro, as we used to call him, designed this, and he's using ram balls to connect it. So you connect the mirror where your mirror connects. You put a ram ball in there. Then there's the ram arm, and then his mirror is actually this piece here, which looks like your beauty mirror. And mine's all dirty because it's been used. Yeah, it's been used, laying around. I just pulled off the bike. It took about that long to take it off the bike. But the cool thing is it's completely adjustable. So with the ram balls, you can angle this sucker any way you want it to get it where you want to go. Amazingly, they don't vibrate much. They're relatively indestructible. In all the years I've had these things, and I have them on almost all of my dual sport bikes and all my adventure bikes, I've only broken one. And that was on my UTV when it rolled. So I have the mirrors. He makes mirrors for the UTVs as well, which, man, they are way less expensive than all the UTV mirrors out there.
Really?
Like there's a lot of companies that make these really amazing looking billet, like crazy ass mirrors. And you just use basically the same setup. He has a bar clamp and thing, and use the adventure shaped mirror, which is a little more kind of diamond shaped, and they bolt right on. And but yeah, I went in the rocks, and got a little cattywampus, as I like to say. And when it landed on the mirror, it did break it amazingly. A whole UTV crushing it. So not only did that, I use this when I'm tuning up my style here.
Yeah.
A shave, check my shave on the back.
Make sure it's all good for your grinder photo shoot.
Right.
Yeah.
Grinder. You're managing that account still, right? Am I doing good?
Yeah.
Am I making money?
After expenses of paying me, no.
Or is that OnlyFans?
That's OnlyFans.
Got it.
Which we could actually start an OnlyFans because it just happened to get turned into porn. It's not for porn primarily. It wasn't designed with porn in mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jet Lawrence has one.
He has an OnlyFans.
Yeah, but again, not porn.
What does he do on it?
It's exclusive content for those who want to
get closer to
you. Yeah. Think of it like Patreon, but apparently it's a little bit more personable than Patreon.
Okay.
And then it just turned into porn, like many great technologies.
Well, usually, yeah, porn leads the way in the the video delivery and VHS versus beta.
Hey, that's what all that stuff you're talking about, the AI generated stories, originally started out as smut, AI generated smut.
Oh,
Yeah, so
didn't know this.
Yep.
Good for you,
Well,
Matt. So, anyways, double take mirrors. If you're looking for one of these, let me know. I might have a super code for you. So get you a little discount on a double take mirror. But they've been helping me out for a long time. They support our schools.
Great product.
They're supporting the video that I'm attempting to get done on our KTM 390 adventure ride with some guy named Logan. Remember Logan?
I don't know.
We should probably see if we can get him to come back in here. There's a reason he should come back. There's a real reason he should come back in.
Does it have to do with a carb rebuild?
No.
Okay.
No. Actually, it's a 100% beneficial to him. But that's the way it works. You got to put a little effort in.
Mm-hmm.
It could be his wad of tips from one of the classes the last time he taught. But
he's good at getting those.
Who knows? So hey, we got one more question from episode 170.
Yeah, we'll just bust out these questions here. So Moto Minded was saying this is an interesting conversation about the Starks and the E-Motos. The question that he has is, are they viable without a clutch? Emotion Trials Bikes has one. I'd like to see them on a production full size.
So I rode a Emotion with a clutch.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't like it. It was just like, maybe it's just what I'm used to with electric bikes. It's just all throttle, just 100% throttle, and it didn't need it. And I rode a long time ago. I rode an e-bike that had a transmission in it, and it had a clutch. And the same thing, I didn't like it because that one, the we'll call it the engine controller was so bad. Because it was all the power all at once, and then it lost power. It tapered. So you'd be gassing it, and it'd be losing power, and you'd clutch it, it'd lose more power, and then you'd drop it again and have a burst, and then it'd fall on its face. It was horrible. So the electric motor has so much torque right when you turn it. It doesn't need a clutch. It's not like a motor that's starting with nothing and building to something. It has everything.
Yeah.
And so, but I would imagine that if you were gearing it up, you could do it. But I've heard that they're with a lot of these, they're building options for clutches in. I just don't know why, because you just
twist the throttle.
Well, twist the throttle, and then I would rather have them spend more. If you want a clutch, I would say, well, why don't we just spend more time programming the throttle? So you have ways to program the throttle to make it work the way you want, and then you would never have to use a clutch. So
did you agree with I don't remember if I told you this when the free ride was still here. I felt like you could almost get a friction zone by taking the tension out of the chain on that free ride. So you twist the throttle, and right before it would take off, there was actually a moment where it would take the tension out of the chain before it would actually start turning the wheel.
Yeah,
I felt like that was a good friction zone.
It has amazing traction control, that KTM free ride E. So because I would ride up a hill and stop, or back off the throttle and then come back on the throttle, and especially in the lower power modes, you could go up a hill and you could nail it, and it just sits there, and it doesn't have enough power to go, and then you give it a little, take your weight off it and give it a little push, and it would just barely start creeping, So that's just that's the engine control unit I was talking about. That's where the electric stuff has come so far, because they learned how to control, just the control units, because it is. In the beginning, the guys that were doing were not motorcycle guys, so they didn't know that, they just would, okay, turn it, on and power and off and, slow.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a lot of those bicycles, electric bicycles now that have like a little thumb throttle. Like you hit that thumb throttle, it just starts going as fast as it can, just goes, and takes off. But now with the pedaling platforms that on the e-mountain bikes and stuff, they're learning how to really control electric motors. So, Gabe CK is signing up for my OnlyFans if we get kitty pics. Yeah, you get for a different subscription level. We could probably, introduce Selma into the mix. A lot of cat activities.
Yeah.
Little pussy, as I like to say. Yes, and Bobby Coleman, great products. Those double take mirrors. And Victor knows that I'm drinking kombucha. No, it's not kombucha. I'd taken a little time off. I think just decided it was just time to maybe.
Oh, getting rid of the camel
front. Yeah, reducing the camel front capacity was above the recommended maximum level. Well, so I decided that probably the easiest thing to do would just to be to lay off the beers. I mean, I could have some tequila, like this Ariete 101. It's right here. It's just an arm's reach away, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, why not?
Hey, and while we're talking about that, maybe I'll start drinking at the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. Motorcycle Industry Celebration, January 28th from 6 to 10 p.m. in fabulous Las Vegas. It's actually at Gene Wood's Racing Experience, and that's on Fremont Street. So I may or may not be getting inducted or removed. I might be getting removed from the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. And I was actually going to put those shoes on and wear them the other day, the hot shoes.
Didn't we want to recreate Gene Wood's picture with those shoes? His picture of him as a kid, and he's sliding and he has his Vans on.
Yeah, I remember talking about this.
Yeah.
Got to get.
I still need to register for that. Actually,
we got to get Jerry back in. I do too. Actually, I talk about it all the time.
It's a QR code right there, so I think we scan it. And,
scan it and get it in there.
So we'll go on to some of the next questions. Do you want me to go over these ones, or just skip to the ones on the bottom there?
Let's go to skip the comments and go straight to the questions.
Okay.
And Chris Johns, we would love to do an XT project bike, but that's like flogging a dead horse. It's not going to go any faster.
Let's see here. For the KLX impression video, Aussie Park said you didn't say anything about shock adjustments.
Is there shock adjustments? Were there clickers on that thing?
There's no clickers to be turned.
Oh, really?
I think there was preload adjustment that you could do, but yeah.
Yeah, those bikes don't need. It doesn't need adjustment. It just ride it. Just hop on it and go ride it and quit thinking about this.
And then Hing YT on the 2020 Honda CRF 450L review. 250. Sorry. Yeah. He wants to know what the gas mileage was.
Is that the one that CRF 250L?
It's the one that Gabe tested.
Boy. I want to say at times it was upwards of 80 miles to the gallon. And then when we were sending it, we were getting it down in the high 20s, 28, I think, when we were just pinning it in sand washes and stuff. Because I think it actually had a pretty good fuel gauge on it for some reason. I don't recall, but we didn't say it in the video. But he should probably read the test.
Mm-hmm. We'll call that it for those questions.
Jake May has a question. Looking to get some flex bars and trying to side on sweep. Big guy with fairly wide shoulders. So, Jake, do you have a particular bend that you prefer on? On your regular bikes? Like, what are you currently running, or is there what bike are you putting these on, and what do they have? And I can probably give you a little bit better, because it's bars are super super personal, and it kind of depends on how you like to. Angle your wrists, how you hang on to the bike. And the cool thing about the flex bars is they are pretty adjustable because you can actually raise them up and down a little bit. So, the sweep is the kind of the only thing that's really fixed. But give me a little more info and I will do that. George tells me, did I get the dress shirt for the Hall of Fame? Okay, stock. And if you like your stock bars on a KTM, those are about, I want to say that they're like 11 degrees and flex is 12 or 10. So it's probably right in between. So if you want something that's a little bit flatter, that'd be more straight, go with the 10. And I run the 12, and I'm a little bit, I guess you'd call it old school. I used to be 14. I used to run the 14, and I've kind of evolved up to 12. And the KTM bars always seemed a little bit too flat for me, but now I kind of like where they're at. So yeah, if you're like the 10 would be the most flat, and also since wider shoulders, it would turn your arms out a little bit more. So yeah, that sounds like that's what I would do. And if you don't like it, you always switch. and then the KTM bars may actually be 12 as well, but I don't think they're 10, because that's a really flat bend.
Mm-hmm. And don't worry about what you're seeing on the screen right now.
Don't worry about what I'm seeing on the screen.
Yeah, you don't worry about that.
I'm never worried about what I'm seeing on the screen.
Yeah, just have the utmost faith in me, and know that when it's not the phones, everything's gonna be smooth.
Okay, as long as it's not the phones.
As long as it's not the phones.
What bike are we starting with first, Matt?
Well, I think we should announce we're moving on to Roost.
Oh, yeah, announce the segment. This is everybody's favorite segment on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is Taco Moto's Roost or Endo, but don't blame Taco Moto for anything that I say about your bike. Mm-hmm. So the way this works is you send us a picture of your bike and you tell us about it, but make sure that you tell us the year, make, and model. This is important because I can't just guess what year, make, and model everything is, and I don't know that much. I can usually guess.
Yeah.
But I want to be, I want to be correct, so just give me that. So that's number one. Year, make, and model. Tell us a little bit about the bike. We talk about it. We discuss your bike.
Mm-hmm.
We tell you how we feel about your bike. Maybe we critique the photo a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of things. And after all, we tell you your bike, whether it roosts or endos. Or maybe it's for sale. I almost
Roost or Endo for sale.
Roost, Endo, or for sale. And because you're trying to get some promotion on your bike for sale. Mm-hmm. And then the one that gives us the most enjoyment, we talk about it, and you will win a $100 gift certificate from Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. So if you're looking for almost anything for your dirt bike, especially your KTMs and KTM-like brands, Taco Moto is the place to go. That's tacomoto.co. Mm-hmm. Okay, Matt, let's get to it.
All right, first up is going to be Darren Wilson. Mr. Darren Wilson.
Okay.
So this was, it's a good thing I pulled up his email.
Oh, why? Because he didn't tell us the year, make, and model?
No, he did. Okay. I didn't copy it properly. So this is a 1989 KX 125, and it was clapped out when he first got it.
89.
Mm-hmm. He spent the better part of a year rebuilding the whole bike from bearings and the entire engine, shock, and etc. And he's been hooked on riding ever since. Some further background is that he's actually 52 years old and he's fairly new to riding. So, and then here is the mods. It has new plastics. LA sleeve ditched the NICA seal, and he's got the cylinder sleeved. All the other parts are stock, not the 1989 decals. And then it's a battery-powered Amazon Cree lights. 6 amp hour goes in the airbox when it's late. He realized how nice it would be to have an e-start. Loves the show.
Well, that thing should start pretty easy, being a 125. But
let me blow this up just a little bit more for our viewers.
It's funny because I looked at that and I thought it was going to be like a 91, but yeah, that would be. I mean, with 89 right on it, that makes sense. I'm like that he's out like mudding it.
I like that the number plates are 89.
So, did I race one of those? I'm trying to think when I raced. I raced Kawasaki's until I may have had one of those. I don't remember. But they had, that was the old KIPS. The KIPS power valve system. Kawasaki integrated power valve system. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, they were kind of rippers. I was desert racing back then, so I was on a Yamaha at that time. But the Kawasaki's were fast. I raced against a lot of guys with these things. That thing roosts.
It's
it looks like he's had a good time.
It's an awesome roost.
It looks like he's had a good time with that thing. I'm liking the not climb gear.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, climb. Like last week I was wearing the under layers.
Yeah.
I've been wearing that all week. Like those things, just all week long. I've been wearing the because it's been cold and it's just comfortable. And then when I go riding, the other thing is, when it's a good day, Matt, is when I get up in the morning and I put on Moto socks.
Oh yeah.
Because I know that I'm going to go riding, and I'm like, I'm just putting the Moto socks on,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm one step closer to riding. And
There
so
you
now
go.
I've been putting the Moto socks and the Climb like 1.0 underlayer gear. I'm so ready to go. So yeah,
That's a hard roost for me.
good job there, Darren. Yeah, liking it.
Really good roost. Okay, so next up, we'll just go by. This will be Glenn Williams will be up next,
What
and
is
he's
it,
got,
Kawasaki week.
I guess so. So this is a 2009 KLX 450R.
A what? Glenn Williams. I know this guy. He is Mr. KX250.
Oh.
So already right now, I'm shedding a tear for the old two strokes because he probably has like 16 KX250s,
Really?
and none of them were in any shape whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
They were just they needed each other just to keep one running. All 15 of them or whatever he had,
Mm-hmm.
and he probably had to sell all of them to get this.
Maybe. So 2009 KLX 450. So there's only a few things on this bike that he actually takes credit for. He added a Tusk D-Flex Pro handguards and removed the Monster Racing graphics kit and a sick-ass white carbon fiber wrapped Cherubi's front rotor guard. He also added those Climb Viper goggles on it.
I saw that right away. Climb goggles. Well, so I like Climb goggles, but we are sponsored by Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, Scott Sports. I'll just stop talking.
There you go. Okay, so the rest of the stuff on this bike is from when he bought it on Craigslist just before Christmas. So TM Design Works Baja Endurance Slide and Guide Kit, golden tire front, fatty front, and Dunlop Geomax 53 on the rear. Front and rear wheels are balanced and trued for highway speeds, although there is no way of knowing who did it. He thinks he's the fourth owner. Pro Moto kickstand, full FMF powerbomb exhaust with Q4 hex slip-on muffler. A Piso rear brake lever with brake snake style cable and a Fasst Company blue brake clevis. GPR steering stabilizer mounted under the Renthal fat bar with ODI road grips. Baja Design Squadron headlight. IMS 3.2 fuel tank. Kawasaki sourced OEM bar controls for turn signals, headlight, and horn, although I haven't sourced a horn yet, with an ignition key system. Also, possibly sourced from China, random red and blue anodized bling plugs in the cases and oil cap, turn signals front and rear, chain adjustment sliders, big red starter button, unidentified but conspicuously placed blue anodized fuel filter hosing and possible quick disconnect, oversized radiators, aluminum skid plates with case savers, also unidentified wide and sharp foot pegs. He has a Recluse clutch cover that was on the bike the first time he rode it. The inexpensive kit replaces a few clutch plates. Oh, clutch, not clutch cover. Recluse clutch that was in the bike. Inexpensive and it was the inexpensive kit that replaces a few clutch plates in the stock basket. But the kid couldn't get it sorted out, so he installed the stock plates. Last but absolutely not least is the knockoff tidy or titty tail that holds a piece of bling nearly as rare as a unicorn on this model, which is a California license plate.
So I can see why he got this for the license plate.
Yeah.
This bike. So when I started looking at this and I started hearing the list, I thought to myself, I wonder if it was like an X, because there are not a lot of these bikes, but I was like wondering, I wonder if this is like an X magazine kind of test bikes that had a lot of stuff on it. Mm-hmm. But it just it looks like somebody barfed out like a hodgepodge of eBay
yeah, eBay and
eBay parts on this sucker. So Glenn, I hate to Dude, look at the wet dirt in the desert, though.
Yeah.
Isn't that
That's
good?
the Roost.
That's well, I want to go riding right there because I know it's just above Johnson Valley, right out by the King of the Hammers. He's got some great trails right next door with the desert like that. That's roosting, but I'm afraid of this bike. It's almost like, and the thing is, compared to his KXs, this thing actually might kind of be cherry, but it's a yeah, man. But dangling that climb goggle on there is a full. That's a.
So I have my logic.
Okay.
So my logic is this is an Endo, not because the bike itself is bad, but because all these the mod list is not his mods list. It's the other 3 owners' mod list.
Oh, I know that doesn't bother me. He might have got a really good deal on it though.
Yeah.
And for that, it's I like that he's sticking with his thing. I'm torn. I like Glenn. I kind of like Glenn. That's a good bike though. Mm-hmm. The KX450 platform and stuff actually made pretty good power. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I don't know why. The suspension was actually pretty decent on those things, if I remember correctly. I remember we were testing these things back at Dirt Rider, and I was
a 20-something had owned it before him and was commuting on this bike.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
He's in the chat. That's giving him more bonus points. Oh, boy.
Mark's calling it a Roost.
Mark's calling it a Roost?
It wasn't Endo for me, but the fact that I forgot that this thing can be used to commute to work on.
So can a KLR 650. And this is way better than a KLR 650.
Yeah, right? Okay. I was going to say, you can't take a KLR 650 where you can take this thing.
No, I think that's a pretty good bike. I'm gonna give him a Roost. I'm gonna go. I was gonna say, because you could always take the parts off, some of that stuff off. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll say a very, very soft Roost for me.
Okay. Oh, you waffled on that.
I waffled a little bit because I forgot. I did forget that it was street legal.
Oh yeah, street legal's huge. That's nice. Yeah. Okay, what's our next one?
The next one will be a Kevin Donahoe.
Kevin Donahoe.
Oh, and this is a bike right here. This is a bike. Instant Roost.
No, it's not.
Okay, let me see are you going to read it or do you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
So this is a 2013 Husaberg TE300. Has a Recluse auto clutch, FMF exhaust with a gnarly turbine core, XC bar mount, Electron Billetron carb, tubeless front and rear, Enduro Engineering handguards, a Cherby skid plate, rear disc guard, Pro Tune suspension. This thing is a weapon for East Coast woods racing, over 300 hours, and it's still running strong. This is a bike near and dear to my heart.
I know. You just sold one.
Yeah. It had most of these mods.
I think isn't this a year after yours?
This is a year newer than mine.
Yeah, because yours had the older frame, and this frame was a huge improvement from that 2008 to this frame. When they thinned down the frames and frame rails and isolated that shock tower a little bit.
Kevin's in trouble though.
Oh yeah,
that seat, doesn't that look a little lowered and definitely not stock?
The bike looked like the Husaberg monster walked by and puked on it.
I kind of like the yellow and blue and white.
It's super busy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how horrible looking that Husaberg front fender is starting to get. That sweep down. Is that what the new Yamaha fender kind of looks like?
No, I think the new Yamaha one's a little bit more doesn't stick out as far as this one does. It doesn't
slope down as much or something.
Yeah. Over 300 hours. He uses it. Look at that clutch cover. That clutch cover is faded.
Yeah.
This thing is used.
I like that it's used.
Mm-hmm. I like his homemade wooden stand.
And I'll tell you what, he's got a front disc rotor cover. No, I actually think it's a cover. It's not actually the guard. He's got solid rotor, so he's mudding that thing.
Yeah, it's East Coast woods racing.
To get, do you imagine how many bearings he's gone through?
Yeah, so good thing you pointed those out. That's another mod he didn't list.
The solid disc rotor.
Yeah, and the solid disc rotor, I'm not here for that one.
Yeah,
You know. So in Alaska, with how muddy it was,
yeah,
no one ran him up there.
Why not?
Because what happened with the bike that I was using up there that actually did have a solid one, it would lock up because it would get so hot still.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. On a motocross track, though.
On a motocross track.
Yeah, I can
Where
see
it
it
was
on a
muddy
motocross
and
track.
everything. But no one up there ran them.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the dirt, how much they help or hurt with the solid rotor and stuff. But I used to race them when there's certain places we raced at where I used to run them because we just cooked the pads right off the bike, and I don't use the brake too much. That thing roosts.
Yeah,
I'll give it to him. Especially for the 300 hours, I think that's
used, loved.
It's because all you hear about is all the bikes that break in 12 and 14 hours because that's what they say.
Yep.
Everything does.
And then this is a Ruben Brower. Ruben has a 2016 KTM 500 EXC 6 days. He's got 7 hours and 175 kilometers on the clock this past fall.
Kilometers?
Only managed to get 10 kilometers on it before the white stuff came to us here in British Columbia.
I was going to say Canadian, eh?
Yeah, it's just about as bone stock. It's added a Protomoto billet end cap with an ultra silent tip to let it breathe a bit better. He has an order with Takamoto for a few things to add the reliability.
Add to reliability.
Yeah, okay. I had to confirm it didn't say rideability, but yeah, reliability.
Yeah.
But there's no rideability issues with a 500?
No, there aren't.
Yeah,
not that I know of. Yeah,
he was the one who was asking about aftermarket ECUs and towers.
Okay, yeah.
So
get that. So he's got the end cap. Leave it alone. You're good. I think you're good. I'm pretty sure you're good. And he was was he a big guy?
Yeah, 6'4". He's carpenter, 215 pounds, 42 years old.
Get some fork and shock springs. That'll help you out. Ride it a little bit. Get it serviced. Don't get it revalved. Just get it serviced with some springs and call it good.
Yeah.
It's probably too cold to get a better photo than that, right?
Right. I mean, it's probably cloudy out because the light looks soft. So I'm gonna assume it was cloudy out.
Yeah. I was gonna go off on the photo, but then I noticed that I was noticing the Husaberg was on the stand.
Yeah.
In the shop, and that thing that bike just sitting on its own merit is a Roost. It's a nice bike. It's probably going to get better.
You know what would have made it Roost even more is if he parked it in that snowbank and just dug the rear wheel like we do in the sand.
Uh-huh.
And then get the photo of it. Right.
You'd probably get in trouble. It's not often that the people from Canada actually come out of the caves. Mm-hmm. And I think when they come out and it's so bright outside, if he would have shot snow up in the air, he probably would have couldn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the way it works. So it's
another Roost.
It's a Roost. Are we all Roost tonight?
All Roosts tonight. Glenn's was the only one I was a little iffy on. Do you have a winner in mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I have a winner too. For me, it's Darren because that 125 is awesome.
I totally agree. I think I'm glad Darren got stoked on that. And if anything, Darren could actually, I don't know if Takamoto has any gear.
Yeah, hopefully.
But he could use that, and I'm sure that he's talking about kick starting. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be long before he's on something that has an electric start and probably could require a little bit of modifications and stuff. So that
125.
Stoked that. Yeah, Darren, good job.
Yeah.
Thanks for sending that in to us. Thanks, everybody, for sending this in. If you want to Roost, Endo, or sell your bike, you can send thing. Even Glenn agreed with our pick. And that's a noble thing to do, Mr. Kawasaki. Mm-hmm. He says he texted me and said he still has all of the KX250s. So I know if you need KX250 parts, I know a guy.
Yeah. So actually, Darren had sent me an email regarding a question here. So Darren was saying with that 125 that we just said won.
Okay.
He put a JD Jet kit in the bike. He moved the needle clip down one prior to a ride to ensure that it wouldn't run lean in the cold. And then he was looking at the smoke, and here's the picture.
Okay, so
looking at the smoke and plug, he realized he could have leaned it up a bit. He's not looking to rebuild this anytime soon, so he warms it up properly and has to rebuild this whole bike from scratch. Anyway,
so he's showing a picture with some two-stroke exhaust. You know, it's you can see that that's the oil that's doing that. You like rich bikes.
I'll show the picture
typically
to chat here.
Yeah, so it's not like it's cleaning it out. It's not that bad, but when you see that, it's more of the oil that's actually making that as opposed to the carburetor being set so that it's rich. So here's the way if you want to jet a two-stroke and especially like on the pipe, you know, wide open and stuff like that is really easy, but you can also do other throttle positions. And here's what I was taught by someone that was way smarter than me. Basically, you find some place where you can kind of put it under a load. So, you know, you need to have some space. You don't want to do this in tight confines, but you want to you want to take the bike and you want to run it all the way up into over rev. Just rev. You know, the two-stroke, just rev it. This is not a four-stroke thing, by the way. Two-stroke. You rev it till it kind of goes into over rev, where you feel the power really fall off, and then you shift, and you should hear the tone change, and it should pull again. If you're wide open like that and you rev it and you shift and there's kind of no tone change and it doesn't really pull, you're too lean. So I've done this before, like if there's a place in the throttle, if you're like kind of rolling the throttle, you kind of find the spot where it seems like it's not steady, and then you let the bike kind of build, you know, rev through it without turning the throttle. It'll kind of still build revs, and then shift again. Same thing. You kind of make this shift and put a load on the bike again, and if the RPM falls down a little bit, and then it should just it should pull back up. So that's how I would check the jetting per se. And like I said, it's a good way to tell if it's too lean. And when, you know, if it's super rich, it's going to be all blubbery and stuff like that. We're talking about the bike that's kind of in the zone, close, but that's the way to tell whether you're going to blow it up. If it just and you shift and it doesn't, you know, make a tone change, that's it. But you got to be, you know, it's hard to do it at the mid throttles, the smaller throttle things, but wide open's pretty easy. But be ready for it. That's how I used to jet my 125s out in the desert.
There you go.
So, okay. That's our list of questions.
That's our list of questions. That's our list of bikes. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining in. Let's see. Got a bike to sell? Where do I send it?
Matt at Jamilo'sOffroad.com. We'll show it on next week's edition of Roost, Endo, or For Sale.
Roost, Endo, or For Sale.
And give us a contact for them to reach you.
Oh no, just send the commission. We're kind of like one of those like we're like a used car dealership. You know,
hey, we'll negotiate a finder's fee.
Yeah. So everybody, thanks for joining in. We're gonna get some wet dirt out here, do some riding, and hopefully you guys. What's Dennis? Dennis just commented nothing because it's dark. Because it's dark up in Alaska.
Yep. With all 4 hours of daylight they're getting right now. Oh, maybe 4.5 actually. Solstice has passed.
Oh, I would not enjoy that, I don't think. So, Glenn, thanks for joining in. Of course, you know you were close, pretty close to picking that up. A Johto, you end up liking them. Oh, Seamarsh, good question. So he's talking about the seedy Atojo boots.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of torn on them. In all honesty, they're definitely lighter, no doubt about it. But they don't seem to have the same flex that the Crossfires do. So I don't, it's funny. I almost wore them the other day. I almost just put them on. Maybe I'll put them on tomorrow and just kind of revisit that. So Adidas, adios.
Yeah.
So,
right.
yeah, thanks, Mark. Good seeing you. And tequila, his tequila tonight is Tres Generations Plata. That's a good one. So, okay. Hey, one thing I'm gonna mention that for anybody that was familiar with my father-in-law, Ned McNabb, it's Heather's dad. He had passed away last week, and so it's kind of with the heavy heart that we had to say bye to Ned because he was always an awesome guy to have around. He stayed out here a lot, and he would come in the studio, and we used to have to tell him to quiet down because him and Bob would start having discussions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and dedicate this show to Ned, and we'll put up a little banner on the end here. But, yeah, cheers to Ned. We'll see you out on the trail.